Hey there, my name is Brad Cleveland. I'm an engineer and producer, and I hope to work with many artists in the future, recording their albums down. And this is my podcast based on Revolver by the Beatles. To me, Revolver is one of my favorite albums, and the Beatles are my favorite band. They always have been growing up, and this album to me was the first one where they really took a move away from their original folky-based sound and incorporated more guitar rock sound that would be a standard in rock music to come in the years to come, especially in the 70s after the band broke up. They came up with a lot of new ideas in the studio, including they were the first people to use double tracking on vocals, and they found a way to do it automatically using a machine so that they could track both. They could create two vocal tracks at the same time while only recording one. And this is a common thing used today, especially in pop music, just to make the main vocal stand out in the mix. And they were really the first people to use this, and John Lennon loved the sound of it. He thought his own voice was weak at times, and he liked to be able to reinforce it with that second track. They also worked with reversing tape to get strange sounds on guitars and reverbs and whatever else they were working with. This is how they created some of the strange seagull noises that were really just Paul's tracked vocals, and they were able to make it sound almost like a strange seagull noise ringing out with reverbs and things that they had looped behind it. Not only did they make a lot of changes in the way they recorded the album, they also used a lot of different instrumentation that they were used to. George Martin was always one to conduct the orchestra on their tracks and for their records, and he did so on this album as well for the track Eleanor Rigby, and that was really considered one of his greatest works as a composer and arranger. In addition to that, they also used some Middle Eastern instruments, sitar on Tomorrow Never Knows and Love You Too. It really gave them a feel that wasn't something you were used to hearing on a Beatles record at the time, but it was where their mentality was going, where their religion was leading them, and it was really, a lot of it was George Harrison's idea, but it really helped to create an interesting and psychedelic feel on the record. New subject matter was also discussed on the record within the lyrics, such as the song He Said, She Said, which was a song that Lennon wrote about an experience he had on LSD, and then the song Gotta Get You Into My Life, which was McCartney's own ode to pot, and these subjects were new to being discussed in records back in that time period. Another thing that started with Revolver was Paul McCartney's use of story songs in the song Eleanor Rigby and For No One, which I've included in this podcast. These two songs were the first of many that he would write from the outside looking in as his lyrical perspective. Later songs would be She's Leaving Home from the album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and the song Another Day that he did with his own solo band Wings. My opinion is that modern rock and roll has been incredibly influenced by this album and all the Beatles albums in general, but if I had to pick one song that I thought really was influenced by the album Revolver, I would pick a song by a band Superdrag titled The Art of Dying. This track and the album that it was featured on were done in a style that would have made the Beatles proud, with big productions and orchestrations and several uses of different instruments. Even the sitar was used on the album to emulate the use of the sitar on Revolver. Now I leave you with For No One, my favorite track on Revolver. Thanks for listening to my podcast, and I hope the information was helpful.
Your day breaks, your mind aches. You find that all her words of kindness linger on when she no longer needs you. She wakes up, she makes up, she takes her time and doesn't feel she has to